Hello, I am Felix Frisch, and this is the AMS Show. Today we have David Houggy from the Aspen Science Center. Welcome, David, and thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Felix. It's great to be here.
Yeah. David, how did you become involved with the Aspen Science Center?
Well, I moved to Aspen in March of 2012. I was living in Chicago doing consulting work, and I wanted to change of pace, and I moved here. And I ran the buddy program for 4.5 years. And I'd been living here about a year or so when I discovered the Aspen Science Center existed. And I have a physics background, and I'm very passionate about children's education, especially science education. So I got to know the people in the organization and on the board, and I joined the board. And about a year and a half ago, I became the president, and now it's my job.
Sounds like a fun journey.
It is a fun journey. I mean, I get paid to make potato cannons and blow things up and freeze things with liquid nitrogen, and it's a pretty cool job. I'm basically a kid.
That's one of the best jobs.
Absolutely.
And what is the mission of the Science Center?
The mission of the Science Center is to advance the public understanding of science through lifelong discovery, exploration, and education. So basically, we want people to understand more about what science is and how it works and how it doesn't work. And we want to show people how understanding science can help them better understand the world around them and also teach critical thinking. And about 75% of our programming is geared for kids up through high school. And then we have programs for adults as well to get them excited.
Great. And can you tell us about the new popular New Moon Stargazing program?
Yeah, the New Moon Stargazing program has been great. We try to do it every month when there's a new moon. So when the new moon, that means that it's not lit up, so it's dark, which means you can see more stars. And we have another one coming up later this month in October, which will be over at the Center for Physics. You can find information on that about our website. We've got a couple of local astronomers who have some big telescopes, like 16-inch telescopes that are taller than me. And so you can really zoom in and see some very distant stuff. And you can see the rings of Saturn and the moons of Jupiter. And then you can see nebulae and other galaxies. It's really interesting. So the first one we did was on top of Independence Pass in June. And so that was really cool because we were at 12,000 feet. So you're closer, you have less atmosphere. And so it was a beautiful, clear night. And we've got some really great views of things.
Is Aspen a really good place to view stars?
Aspen's good because it's high elevation, yeah. And we often have clear nights. And also there's no light pollution, or there's very little light pollution. So in a big city, you can't see many stars because all of the street lights and things are shining up in the sky, and they sort of wash out the stars. But here, as you know, if you go outside at night, you can just see so many stars. It's amazing.
And can you tell us about the Science Sundays at Jimmy's restaurant? I love going to those.
Yeah, you said you were a fan of the Science Sundays. Yeah, it's a great program. We do those in usually April, May, when it's off season, so the restaurants close down, and Jimmy Yeager's been very kind and generous in letting us use the space. So we usually do 3 of those, and we basically take over the restaurant and set up our own tables and have lots of different hands-on exhibits. So I know you said you're a fan of the oobleck and the slime, and we have always popular, and we have electronic circuits, we have electricity and magnetism, we have a big Van de Graaff generator, we have things for kids of all ages to play with. And so it's just a fun Sunday afternoon of science.
Great way to get kids into science.
Exactly, and that's part of the goal is to show kids and adults, but kids especially, that science can be fun. It doesn't have to be scary or hard. And I think by exposing kids to science at an earlier age, we get them having fun with it and being excited about it so that they want to be more interested in studying science.
And what is a summer street fair?
The summer street fair is, this year was the 6th year we did it. This year we were at the Red Brick. And we have a couple dozen different exhibits, and people come from all over the state and other towns like Telluride and Colorado Springs. And then we have a lot of local science and even art-related organizations that come, like the Art Museum and ACES and the cooking school was there, talking about the science of cooking. We have a solar telescope. We can look at the sun through the telescope, and it's a great event. We get about 500 people to turn out, and it's an afternoon of really a day long, just a chance to run around and play with different things, and make slime and make a mess and do all those fun science things.
And what are some of the more regular activities the center hosts?
So we do, in the summer, we do our physics barbecues, which are over at most of them are at the Center for Physics, and we do typically 8 or 9 of those. So every Wednesday from 5 to 7, we cook burgers and hot dogs and chicken and have salads and things, and we have fun activities out to play with. And then we have a physicist who's visiting with the Aspen Center for Physics will give like a 20-minute talk on a subject geared toward kids. And I mean, we've discussed particle accelerators, we've discussed quantum mechanics, we've discussed all sorts of really complicated, crazy things, but they have a way of making it accessible for kids, and I think that's always sort of the highlight of the barbecue, is listening to what the physicists have to say.
And could you talk about how the Aspen Science Center works with the Valley schools?
Yes, we a couple different ways. We have a high school internship program, so we have high school students from up and down the valley that work for us in the summers. We teach after-school enrichment programs on early release Wednesdays at different schools up and down the valley. We will be doing some family science nights. So I think in November we're doing a family science night on a Friday at Aspen Middle School, where families will be invited to come, and it'll be kind of like a science Sunday, but maybe a little bit bigger. And we're hoping to do those up and down the valley. So we'd love to do one at Aspen Middle School and Carbondale and Glenwood Springs. And then we also have a preschool program, which we're creating, and we go into preschools up and down the valley and teach the scientific method and bring fun science activities for preschool kids. So we really want to get the kids engaged early when they're sort of, if a 3 or 4-year-old child is sort of a natural scientist. They're always picking things up and dropping things and putting it in their mouths and sticking their fingers in the light sockets and things like that. And we want to encourage that, maybe not the light socket thing so much, but we want to encourage kids to understand that what they're doing is they're exploring the world with their senses, which is really a lot of what science is. And we want to encourage the preschool teachers to reinforce that activity so that they feel like, oh, I'm doing science, I'm a scientist, and this is something that's fun, something I want to do more of.
Great. And the Science Center, you've talked about some of the summer activities for kids. What are some others?
So in the winters, we do something called Physics Cafes, which is geared toward adults and young teens, where, again, we'll have a couple of physicists from the Physics Center, and we do it at the lobby of the Wheeler before the Center for Physics does a weekly lecture. This is very informal. We just have 2 or 3 scientists, and they just talk about what they do and how they do it and what it's like to be a scientist. And it's really just a very quick introduction, and then it's all Q&A from the audience. So you can ask all kinds of questions. And some of the best, most provocative questions come from younger kids that are there. We had we did one of these a few years ago, and the young boy in the front put his hand up and to ask a question, and I think the physicists weren't quite sure what he was going to say, and his question was, what is gravity? Which is a pretty involved topic. So there was a long conversation that ensued from that conversation. Let's see, we also do day camps, so we go to the Aspen City day camps and the Snowmass day camps and present science there. So we have really quite a lot of activities for kids throughout the year.
And I know you've talked a lot about the kids, but what are some of the high school activities?
So the high school activities, we have a high school internship program. So we hire 6 or 7 high school students to be interns with us over the summer, and they help us with our activities and getting those prepared. We give them training, and they present science to the other kids that are there. So they're helping teach the other kids and run the demonstrations. And we also ask them to help us create new demonstrations for the Science Center. So it's a pretty interesting slate of summer activities for teens.
And I know that the Aspen Science Center has worked with the Aspen Music Festival in the past.
Yes.
How do you collaborate?
So we, for 2 summers, and we're bringing it back next summer again, we've done the Science of Music. And so Alan Fletcher is the CEO and president of the Music Festival, is on our board as well. And so it's sort of a natural collaboration. And we bring in musicians and we bring in scientists. And Alan is quite a renowned, or is quite knowledgeable in the areas of science himself. So we bring in musicians and scientists to talk about how understanding the science can help you better understand the music. So for example, we had a violinist on, Bobby McDuffie, and he has a several hundred-year-old violin, and then he has a modern carbon copy of that violin, and we had different violins from different periods. And I don't know if you've heard of a Stradivarius violin, but it's a very famous violin that was made by this Italian several hundred years ago, and they're renowned for being sort of the best sounding violins that you can get. And so we explored, why is that? What makes that violin sound different than a modern violin? And it has a lot to do with obviously the shape of the violin, but the wood they use, the way they age the wood, the varnish they use, how it's constructed. It's there's a lot of complicated things that go into making a really good sounding violin, and it was, in those days, it was an art form because people didn't understand the science as much. But now, by understanding the science, we have a better insight into why some violins sound better than others.
Sounds great how you can bring science into anything kids
Yeah,
love.
we had one of the master piano tuners from the music festival. We had a grand piano, and he took the piano apart. So he pulled the keyboard out and took the mechanisms out, so you could see all the different things that go into making a piano. And again, there's a lot of complicated engineering that goes into that because there's a lot of tension in the piano strings. And so it's really fascinating. And I think that's part of what we're trying to do, is find areas that people are naturally interested in, like music, or we do another program called The Science of Cooking, and have them come and participate in music or cooking, and then teach them the science behind it. So if you understand what's happening when you're cooking, then you can be a better cook. And so it's really interesting.
Great. And what are some of the goals for the Aspen Science Center?
We have, overall, our goal is to expand our programming and reach more people. And part of that is, a big part of that is more kids programming, especially after school programming. We would like to, in addition to all the stuff we do in Aspen, do more down valley in Basalt and Carbondale and Glenwood Springs. So we're reaching the whole valley. We do stuff down valley now, but we'd like to do more. And ultimately what we'd like to do is open a science discovery center where we're open every day after school. And we've got all this stuff set up. We've got a robotics lab and a makerspace and an app development lab and a PC programming lab, and you can work on designing. You can work on different science projects and come in once a week or a couple times a week and work on your science stuff. And I think that's that's sort of our next major goal, is to make that a reality.
It sounds like such a great place for kids like me to just go after school and do some science.
You can come after school and hang out, and the beauty of doing it after school is that you're not in a set program. You don't have a set curriculum. You can explore whatever interests you, and so you can really follow your interests and your curiosity to explore the world around you, and then we can help explain the science so you understand the science behind it.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Just that we're always growing and expanding our programming. I think we've grown quite rapidly in the last couple of years, and we're always looking for more people to get involved. Come to our activities. We always need high school interns in the summers, so we're looking for more interns. And we have programs for adults too, and also always looking for people that want to get involved in different ways, working and helping the Science Center. We need volunteers, looking for board members. There's a lot of ways to get involved.
Great. Just from what I've heard, this Aspen Science Center sounds such an awesome place for kids. And
Thank you. Well,
everyone.
You've experienced it firsthand. So
great. Thank you so much, David, for being on the show.
That's been my pleasure.
Again, I am Felix Frisch, and you've been watching the AMS Show.